Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending the webinar on making a map. This is the second of 4 ArcGIS online webinars that will be offered this month. My name is Angela Alexander, and I work at Esri Canada in the Education and Research Group. My focus is supporting K-12 educators across the country in their use of GIS. I'm responsible for resource development. This includes the creation of data sets, maps, lessons, activities, tutorials, and GIS training and technical support for educators. Today I will show you how you can use ArcGIS Online to make a map, search and add data, change base maps, and how you can save and share your map. So ArcGIS Online is a web-based mapping software that's used to make maps, analyze data, and to share and collaborate with others. It can be used to inquire and explore topics and issues and to present findings in an interactive way. It can be used across curriculum, including grade and learning levels. All Nova Scotia educators and students can sign into their GNSPES account to access ArcGIS Online by clicking on the ArcGIS icon. Okay, so I am signed in here and into the Nova Scotia Schools subscription, and so you should be able to see the same thing if you have an account. And I'm in the home page right now, so I'm going to open the mapping application called Map Viewer, where you can create and interact with online maps. To do this, click on the Map tab at the top of the screen. So let's explore some of the features of this application, beginning with finding a location on the map. So here's the search tool or search bar, and you can type in a location. This can be a city, a country, an address, a school name. You can type that in and hit enter. So I typed in Halifax, and I'm zoomed in now to Halifax. And there's some other ways that you can zoom in and out of your map. So one way is using your mouse. You can zoom in and out using the mouse wheel on your mouse. You can also use the plus and minus signs on the screen. In addition, you can hold down the Shift key on your keyboard and at the same time left-click on the mouse and drag the cursor to draw a rectangle to zoom to a specific area on the map. So another feature in the map viewer are the base maps. So right now we're looking at the topographic base map. If I click on this base map icon, I can open the gallery. There are 10 different base maps to choose from. So you can click on a thumbnail to select the base map of your choice. Depending on what you're mapping, you may want to change the base map. For example, if you're mapping something where you want the features to stand out, you might want to use the dark or light gray canvas. This will allow your features to pop on your map. However, if you're using or creating a map about coral reefs, you might want to use this beautiful ocean-based map. This space map is great because it has many features about the ocean, like the ridges and the depth of the water in certain areas. And it is also part of the National Geographic base map that highlights features, natural features in Canada and around the world, including the national parks in Canada. So now let's go to adding and searching data. So we're going to search for layers using the term ArcCanada. And this search term is a keyword that we use in our group when we create any content in ArcGIS Online. So this is a keyword that I would recommend that all educators across Canada remember, because it's, these are data layers that we've created that are connected to curricula across Canada. So this includes demographic data, historical data, and physical geography data layers. So let's create a map that will include historic Acadian settlements and British and French territories in 1750. So I'm going to go to Add, Search for Layers. I'm going to change this from My Content to ArcGIS Online, allowing me to search the whole site and not just the content that's in my account. So the next thing is I'm going to type in ArcCanada, Acadia, and hit Enter. And I will receive 2 layers. And the first one, I'm going to look at the second one, and I'm going to click on the title to view information about that data layer. So there's a description in here and some other information about this particular layer. From here, I can click Add Map, or I can click it on the plus sign under the name of the layer. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to exit this search window and go to Content. And now I can see that there's a layer added to my map here, and it's visible because it's checked off here. And as I hover, there are other things that are listed under the layer. So there's a table. So in a GIS, spatial data is linked to attribute data. So the spatial data is what you see on the map. So these are the features that are here. And then the tabular data, or the attribute data, is the information about that particular feature. So in this case, there's a place, so the place name, there's the date the settlement was founded, and then a URL that will allow you to view additional information about that settlement. I can also click on the legend to view the information about that layer. So the next thing I want to do is add another layer. So I'm going to go back to Add, Search for Layers, and I'm going to add the British and French territories layer from 1750. So I can click on the title to view information about that layer, and I can add it to the map from here. So I'll go to my content, and I will hover over the layer and zoom to it so I can view the complete layer. In addition, I can also change the transparency of this particular layer so I can see what's underneath. The next thing I'll do is I will go to the settlements layer and zoom to that. So now you can see how quickly we created a map in ArcGIS Online, and specifically in this web application or mapping application called the Map Viewer. So from here, I can change the base map again to something that if I want to change it, I can do that. I can also uncheck the layers that I don't want. So I'm going to start from scratch, and from the next thing I'll do is I'll add Nova Scotia data. So I'm going to search for that first. So I'm going to go Add, search for layers, and I'm going to type in Nova Scotia and hit enter. And I can see there are 431 layers here. So there are different ways that you can view it. You can view it just by the title. You can also view it by the type, when it was modified, and another way as well. So I'm going to keep it as it is right now. And I'm going to select the first one. So I'm going to click on the title to view some of the information about this data set. And I can see that it's parks and protected areas for the province. And I can also see what types of areas they are, like how they have been divided, and some other additional information, including the date. So it's a very recent data set, which is great. So I'm going to add this to the map. And as I go back here to the content, I can see there are 3 layers associated with this particular data layer. So I'm going to zoom in. So it looks like this layer is set to a specific geography, so you have to zoom in order to see it. So if I'm zoomed out, I'm unable to see the layer, and you can see that it's grayed out here. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to actually look at how it's been symbolized. So I go to the legend, and I can see there are 3 different layers. I'm going to use the 3rd layer, so I'm going to uncheck the first 2. And I want to see what the attributes are about each feature. So I can see here, this is the pop-up that appears. And I can see this is the information that is connected to this feature. So what I want to do, I can also see this in the table. So the same data that I looked at is listed in the table here. So we can see there are 712 features connected to this layer. And I can click on this layer, and I can actually see it in here. I can view center on the selection, so there it is. I can also click on this and then center that on the selection as well. So it's dynamic, it's interactive, so the table features are connected to the features on the map. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to configure my pop-up so that it will only include certain attributes. So to uncheck everything, I can click here and click it again to uncheck, and I will select only the attributes or fields that I want to be included in my pop-up. I can also change the field alias to something else if I wanted to. And if there's numbers, you can also select to use 1000 separator, so it adds in the commas. Okay, so now that I've done that, let's go back and look at that. Okay, so I can see that it's been edited and changed the way I want it to be changed. In this pop-up here, you can see that there are polygons very close to each other. So there are 3, and as I flip through them, I can see the other ones. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is show you how you can add features that are your own, and these are called map notes. So what I've done first is I unchecked all the layers in my content area. So there's nothing visible except for the base map. And I'm going to change this base map to the topographic base map. So to add map notes, you go to Add and then Add Map Notes. And so map notes, for each one, you can include text, web links, and an image. You can add points, lines, polygons, text, and other features to your map. So for this example, I'm going to use locations that I found through a online CBC story about Black communities around Nova Scotia. So I'm going to name this particular layer Black History in Nova Scotia. And I'm going to click Create. And when I do that, I can see that now I have an Edit button that appears and an Add Features window that appears on the left side. So these are all the features that I can now add to my map. So depending on what I want to add, I have a big list of features that I could use. So the first one I'll use is a stick pin. But first, I'm going to add the first point, or look for the first point, and that is Gibson Woods, Nova Scotia. And if I take this out and get a different location. Okay, so I'm going to now use the stick pin and add it to my map. And this is the pop-up where I would add the information. So I need to add a title. I can add a description. So based on that article that I read, this location was founded by George Gibson, who is a Black loyalist. So I'm going to put that in here. I can also add an image from the internet. So I actually found this. So I did some reading, and the United Baptist Church in Gibson Woods is a very important location for the community. So I thought this would be a great one to include in the pop-up. And if I want to, I can actually add a URL that links to a website. From here, I can also change the symbol from the default symbols that are offered in the Add Features window. So I'm going to select this orange star, and then I'm going to close it, and I'm going to the next location. So I'm going to add one more. And this is the Guysborough area in Nova Scotia. And I'm going to add the stick pin here. And why is this important? It's where the first Black residents were originally Black loyalists who arrived from New York in 1783. So I am going to add this in here. Okay. And then I have a image ready. So I'm going to right click on that, copy the image address, put that in the image URL section, And I'm going to change the symbol to the same thing. And then I'm going to close it. Oh, just one other thing here. When you change the symbol, you can also, you have different templates here. So depending on what you're adding, there might be a template that you could use. So points of interest, there's different ones here. There's outdoor recreation. So if you and your class go on a hike or a camping trip or something along those lines, you can add, use icons here. There's also disasters. So if you're mapping natural disasters in Canada, you can use any of these icons. You can also use an image from the internet. So for example, the Acadian flag, we were able to get that online and use that in our, for our data layer. So it just has to be a JPEG, a PNG, or a GIF. And it says there it can't be greater than 120 by 120 pixels. And then once you've added your URL, you can just click on that plus sign and it will add that. You'll see it up here. You can also change the symbol size here, or you can add in the number. Okay. So I'm now going to exit the edit session, and I can click on my feature and see the information that I added to that point. Okay. I'm just reading some of the chat window stuff here that Chris has written to everyone. So I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything here. Okay. So today I am not going to be talking about analysis in making maps. I am just talking about the basics of creating your first web map and some of the options you have. So like searching and adding data, that's already created. And then what I just showed you right now, which is adding a map note, so adding your own features to the map. So keep in mind, I used 2 examples that are points. However, you can also use, so I'm going to go back to the edit here. You can also add routes in as well. So using that line feature, you can actually create routes from one place to another. You can create a study area, and I can also change the symbol so the pattern can be different. I can change the color, the transparency, the line width. I can also put in arrows. So if you are doing a route or maybe direction of water flow, for example, in a river, you could use, there's many different ways that you can use this. The examples I showed used points, but you can definitely use, you know, polygons or area. You can use lines to represent different things. And of course, there are arrows there. And there's an option for freehand, not easy to use, just to let you know. And there's also different shapes here. And text. You can actually add text to your map as well. So you can do that, and you can change the color, and you can make it bigger, smaller. Keep in mind when you do use text, when you zoom in and out, it's not, it might not be the best thing to have on your, so it depends on how you're creating your map and what the purpose of that is. Okay, so some of the other features in the map viewer is you can measure features. So I can measure an area. So I can also change this from square kilometers, which is the default for Canada, to other, measurements. And then I can also use the distance. So I can just do that, double click, and I can see how many, by default it's by kilometers, but you can change that. And you can also use the decimal degree or location feature here. So if I want to know what the decimal degrees is, the Latin longitude, longitude in decimal degrees, I can just go to a place on the map, and I can see that. You can also explore the Living Atlas layers. So these layers have been vetted by Esri in the US, and they're the ones that create the software and update it. And you can add in, so I'm going to look for Canada demographic. So that's the search term I'm going to use. And I'm going to look at the first data set that shows up here, and that's the median household income for Canada, and this is very up to date for 2018. And you can see here that I can use this actually as a base map as well. So the tiled base, so there's different types of data within ArcGIS Online, and some of the data sets, they're called tiled data sets. These you can use as base maps. So I can do that. I can change this and use it as a base map. But right now I'm just going to show you how I can add this to the map. And we can have a look at the legend here. So it's by census subdivision. Right now how I've been zoomed in to Nova Scotia. So I can click on it on one CSD, and I can see the name of the CSD, and I can see the information here, including a bar graph. So Esri really has put together this data set with a lot of information, and they've set it up so that the pop-ups are really easy to use. As I zoom out, you will notice that the legend will change. So it changed from CSD to census division. So I can click on that, and it will give me similar information, but just at a different geography level. Okay, so the other thing, of course, is saving your map. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make some changes here. So I can set up my map the way I want to. And I'm going to I can delete these layers as well. I can remove them. So keep in mind that if you're exploring different layers, it's not something that's permanent. You can remove them. And you can also change the symbology of layers as well by hovering over the layer and clicking on the change style. So I'll just go back here, change style, and then I can change the location, the symbol in here. So right now I have it as a symbol that I got from the internet, but I could change that to a shape. So I can have it as an orange star again. So I'm going to take this, uncheck that, and this is these are the Acadian settlements, and I changed the symbology. So keep in mind that if you add data layers and you're not happy with the symbology, there's the option of changing the style, and that means changing the way it looks on the map. So there's also the option of heat maps. So this is something that's analysis. So I said that I wasn't going to mention that, but this is one way that you can analyze data. So if you have a lot of points in an area, you can use this heat map to see where there's some areas where there's more, in this case, settlements. Okay, so once I've set up my map the way I want it to look, I will save it. And to do that, I just go to Save. And I will be prompted to add a title. So in this case, it will be Nova Scotia. I'm just going to put this as a demo, my demo map. And I have to add tags. So those are the keywords that are very important that will help you search for your content and also for others to search for it. So remember, ours is Arc Canada. So if you want to find any data layers that we create, use the search term Arc Canada. I can put in a description about the map, and then I can select a folder to add my content to. And then I will save it. So once that's saved, if I make any additional changes, so for example, if I change the base map, I will have to save it again. So keep that in mind. And the next thing is sharing. So we've saved our map. Now we can share it. So I can share it to everyone. So that's to public. So people can access it without even being signed into ArcGIS Online. They can be searching Nova Scotia, and if you've tagged Nova Scotia, this might come up. You can share it to just your organization, so the Nova Scotia School. You can also share it to a group. So if you've created a group, you can add that as well to the group. So that's up to you. And then when you're done, you can click Done. So once you've shared and you've saved, your stuff will be in your content area. And this is where you can organize your data as well, or your content. And I just created this, so I can select it and I can move this to a folder, which I already have done. And I also can create a new folder here. So say I want to move this to a new folder, I can just create the folder name and then click Create, and it will move it to there. I can also change the owner of this map to someone else. I can share this, I can change the sharing options, and I can also delete my web map from here. So you can also create your folders on the left side here by clicking New and adding a new folder. Okay. So we've gone through some of the basics of the map viewer, including how you can create a map. So now you can try a tutorial. So you can go to k12.esri.ca and try the Discover ArcGIS Online tutorial, or you can go to the 6x6 for Nova Scotia tutorial. Or if you have an account and you're ready, based on my demo, you can try out some of the things that I showed you and create your first map. So the next webinar is in a week at the same time, and it's going to focus on citizen science using Survey 123. So you can learn how to create a survey for a class project. So citizen science is the practice of public participation and collaboration in scientific research to increase scientific knowledge. So through citizen science, people can share and contribute to data monitoring and collection programs. So an example of a project that you could do with your class could be a bioblitz. So finding and identifying as many species as possible in a specific area over a short period of time. You can also monitor the condition of a body of water. There is a school project going on at a private girls' school in Toronto, and we have supported the project. And this teacher took 150 kids out to the Don River, and in different areas of the river, they collected data using the survey that they created using Survey 123. And it's something that he is going to do every year with students, and they're grade 9 students, so every grade 9 student will be able to be involved in this, and over time they'll see how the condition of the river has changed. Another project could be a tree survey to monitor condition of trees in your school property or maybe a nearby forest. And this is an example here on the screen. So there is a teacher in Brampton, Ontario who created this web map with deciduous and coniferous trees. And his tree survey example is here also on the screen. And this is something that I will be talking more about next week. So thank you so much for attending the webinar. You can connect with us at k12@esri.ca. Feel free to email us and if you have any questions. And you can find free resources and learn more about how we support educators at k12.esri.ca. And you can follow us on Twitter at GIS for Teacher. We like to post new resources, interesting stuff that's going on in the education area for GIS in Canada, including highlighting amazing teachers and GIS ambassadors who've been supporting teachers and students across the country. We hope you can make it to next week's webinar. Thank you so much.